Any reformation which is not aware that fundamentally every single individual needs to be reformed is an illusion. The individual stands alone. The ethical reality of the individual is the only reality. It is not doctrine which ought to be revised. It is not the church which ought to be reformed and so on. No, it is existences which should be revised. Our whole way of life is stuff and nonsense.
The dreadful case of a man who, when he was a little boy, suffered much hardship, was hungry, numb with cold. He stood on a hillock and cursed God. And the man was not able to forget this when he was 82 years old.
As a child, I was seriously and sternly brought up in Christianity. Humanly speaking, it was a crazy upbringing. The depth of my melancholy was only equalled by the depth of my skill in concealing it. My one joy was that nobody could discover how unhappy I felt. I've never had any immediacy, and in the ordinary human sense of the word, I have never lived. I did not gradually learn reflection. I am reflection from first to last.
Wednesday, April the 19th. My reserve and self-isolation are broken. I must speak. God give me grace. My whole being is changed. God's love overwhelms me. What he has done for me is indescribable. My father's death really pulled me up. I dared not believe that the fundamental misfortune of my being could be resolved. But now a hope has awakened in my soul that God may desire to resolve the misery of my being. Now I am in faith in the profoundest sense. Faith is immediacy after reflection. I have understood the highest. That is not given to many in every generation. But almost at the same moment, something new rushes upon me. The highest of all is not to understand the highest, but to act on it. What is this self of mine? It is the most abstract of all things. And yet, at the same time, it's the most concrete. It's freedom. The consciousness of being an individual, which is fundamental in man, is his consciousness of eternity. Christianity is not a doctrine. It is an existence communication. It can only be expounded by being realized in men's lives. Oh, Christendom is pampered with the nonsense that the Christian God is a decent and harmless chap, a good fellow, and especially a friend of female busyness and the begetting of children. All human effort tends towards herding together. Let us unite, etc. Naturally, this happens under all sorts of high-sounding names. Love and sympathy and enthusiasm and the carrying out of some grand plan and the like. This is the usual hypocrisy of the scoundrels we are. But the truth is that in a herd we are free from the standard of the individual and the ideal.
So, millions of men live and die. They are just numbers, and the numerical becomes their horizon, their all. That is to say, they are just copies. And Christianity, which in the divine love wants every man to be an individual, has been transformed by human bungling into precisely the opposite.
The New Testament consists of the demand to dare as a single person to have to do with God. We men reply, let us unite to worship God. The more we are, the happier, the truer, the more we shall please God. Christendom's guilt is really that it makes a fool of God, considers that he is a fool, lets him sit and wait in heaven, and so plays at Christianity on the common, or in theatres built for the purpose, called houses of God. Much the same is true of the modern parson. He is a skillful, active, quick man, who finds it perfectly easy, with the aid of attractive conversation and bearing, to slip in a little Christianity, almost without you noticing.
What an abomination are these Protestant pastors, who at most read what has cost others mortal struggles, and then use it as purple passages in their sermons. My task is so new that in Christianity's 1800 years there is literally not one from whom I can learn how it should be done. For all extraordinary men who have hitherto lived have aimed at spreading Christianity. My task is to put a halt to a lying diffusion of Christianity, to help it to shake off a mass of nominal Christians. The worst danger for Christianity is not heresies, heterodoxies, not free thinkers, nor profane worldliness and so on, no. It is the kind of orthodoxy which is hearty twaddle, mediocrity with a dash of sugar. In every way, it has come to this, that what one now calls Christianity is precisely what Christ came to abolish.
The daily press is properly calculated to make personality impossible, for it has the effect of an immense abstraction, the generation which has infinite power over the single person. The mass of men, of course, have no opinion, but here it comes. This deficiency is helped out by the journalists, who live by hiring out opinions.
If I were a father and had a daughter who was seduced, I should by no means give her up. But if I had a son who became a journalist, I should regard him as lost. The difference between the theatre and the church is essentially this. The theatre, honestly and honourably, acknowledges itself to be what it is. On the other hand, the church is a theatre which dishonestly tries in every way to hide what it is. For example, on the theatre board is always plainly written, money will not be returned. The church, this solemn sanctity, would shudder at the scandal, the offensiveness of writing this above the church door. The actor is an honest man who says plainly, I am an actor. One could never get a priest to say that at any price. It is lucky, therefore, that the church has the theatre alongside it, for the theatre is a wag, really a sort of witness to the truth,
which gives the secret away.
Preaching the gospel, parson and convert. You must die to the world, fee 1 guinea. Well, I can well understand that if I'm to die to the world, I shall have to fork out more than 1 guinea, but just one question. Who gets the guinea? Well, naturally, I get it. It's my living. For I and my family have to live by preaching that one must die to the world. If you are reasonable, you will see that to preach that one must die to the world, if it is done seriously and with zeal, takes a lot out of a man. So I really have to spend the summer in the country with my family to get some recreation.
It happened that a fire broke out backstage in a theatre. The clown came out to inform the public. They thought it was a jest and applauded. He repeated his warning. They shouted even louder. So I think the world will come to an end amid general applause from the wits, who believe that it is a joke. A human being must live in such a state of anguish that if he were a pagan, he would not hesitate to commit suicide. In this state, then, he must live. Only in this state can he love God.